Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Aparna, working as scientist in MFPI Food Quality Control Laboratory, Professor Jayashankar, Telangana State Agricultural University, Hyderabad. Today, we will learn about low temperature preservation and processing. The preservation of food by refrigeration is based on a very general principle in food chemistry. That is, the molecular mobility in food is depressed and consequently chemical reactions and biological processes are slowed down at low temperatures. In contrast to heat treatment, the low temperature practically does not destroy microorganisms or enzymes but merely depresses their activity. Therefore, refrigeration retards spoilage, but it cannot improve the initial quality of the product. Hence, the importance of assuring particularly high microbial quality. Unlike thermal sterilization, refrigeration is not a method of permanent preservation. Refrigerated and even frozen foods have a definite shelf life, the length of which depends on the storage temperature. The preserving action of cold exists only as long as the low temperature is maintained. Hence, the importance of maintaining a reliable cold chain all along the commercial life of the product is very, very important. Refrigeration must often be combined with other preservation processes which will lead to a hurdle principle and a better shelf life can be given to the product. Looking back into the history of refrigeration, natural ice, snow, cold nights, cool caves, etc. have been used for food preservation since the prehistoric times. However, to become a large-scale industrial process, low-temperature preservation had to wait the development of mechanical refrigeration in the late 19th century. Frozen food made its appearance shortly before the World War II. There are some milestones which have led to the history in the mechanical refrigeration. It was in 1748, W. Cullen, he has demonstrated refrigeration by vacuum evaporation of ether. Later, in 1805, Evans has demonstrated the first vapor compression system, which was improved later in 1842 by Perkins. Later, in 1856, a scientist named Twining has demonstrated the first commercial application of refrigeration, followed by Carey in 1859, who has used the first ammonia machine for refrigeration. In 1868, Tellier attempted refrigeration and transatlantic maritime transportation of meat. In 1868, Tellier attempted refrigerated transatlantic maritime transportation of meat, followed by von Linde in 1873, who has developed the first industrial refrigeration system in brewery. In 1918, the first household refrigerators have come into existence. Then, in 1920, W. Carrier started the commercial air conditioning. Then in 1938, Birdseye started the frozen food industry. Later in 1974, Rowland and Molyneux reported that refrigerant gases in the atmosphere are suspected to destroy the ozone layer. After the history, let us now move forward with the low temperature freezing. Food preservation at low temperature comprises two distinct processes. The first one is chilling and the second one is freezing. Chilling is the application of temperatures in a range of 0 to 8 degrees centigrade, that is above the freezing point of the food, while freezing uses temperature well below the freezing point, conventionally below 18 degrees centigrade. The difference between the two processes goes beyond the difference in the temperature. The stronger preserving action of freezing is due not only to lower temperature but also mainly to the depression of water activity as a result of conversion of part of water to solid ice. The use of refrigeration in food industry is just not limited to preservation. Refrigeration is also applied for a number of other purposes such as hardening. For example, foods like butter and fats require that. Apart from that, for freeze concentration and for freeze drying, air conditioning, including air dehumidification and cryomilling also. Let us try to understand the effects of low temperature on the food systems. First, we will try to understand the effect of temperature on the food spoilage. The effect of temperature on food spoilage is given by an equation called as Arrhenius equation as shown in the slide. The kinetics of chemical spoilage reactions such as non-enzymatic browning and loss of some vitamins during storage is found to fit the Arrhenius model quite closely within a fairly wide temperature range. The Arrhenius model is therefore widely used for prediction of chemical spoilage during storage following non-monotonous time temperature profiles. Attention should also be paid to the possibility of discontinuity in the Arrhenius model due to phase transition phenomena, which is relevantly a new phenomenon. Let us try to understand now the effect of low temperature on enzymatic spoilage. The relation between enzymatic activity and temperature follows the well-known bell-shaped curve which is shown in the figure below, which has got the maximum activity corresponding to optimal temperature characteristic to each enzyme. On the first sight, this behavior may seem to be in contradiction with Arrhenius model. But in reality, the bell-shaped behavior is the result of two simultaneous and contrary processes, both depressed by low temperatures. The first one is enzyme catalyzed reaction itself, and the second one is the thermal inactivation of the enzymes. Both of them are shown in the second picture, that is figure 2. Enzyme activity is strongly slowed down but not totally eliminated by refrigeration even below freezing temperature. This is the reason for the need to inactivate the enzymes by blanching, particularly in frozen vegetables. Enzymatic activity in chilled and frozen foods is of considerable technological significance. Such activity may be desirable as in case of the aging of chilled meat or in development of flavor in many kinds of cheeses, but it can also be a source of deterioration such as the activity of proteases in fish or lipases in meat, etc. Let us now try to understand the effect of low temperature on microorganisms. With respect to the effect of temperature on their activity, microorganisms are grouped into 4 categories: thermophiles, mesophiles, psychrotrophs and psychrophiles. Typical growth temperature ranges corresponding to the 4 groups are known to be the source for classification. For example, thermophiles, the growth temperature is between 34 to 45 degrees centigrade, whereas mesophiles grow anywhere between 5 to 10 degrees centigrade. Psychrotrophs and psychrophiles grow between -5 to 5 degrees centigrade. The 4 groups differ not only in their temperature requirement for growth but also the rate of the growth, as shown in the figure 3. Figure 3 shows qualitatively the dependence of growth rate, that is generations per hour, and temperature for thermophiles, mesophiles and psychrophiles. The psychrophilic bacteria grow more slowly even at their optimal temperature. In refrigerated foods, psychrotrophic and psychrophilic microorganisms are obviously the main reason for concern because they are the ones which grow between -5 to 5 degrees centigrade, which is the low temperature or the refrigerated temperatures. The relationship between the temperature and shelf life is also very important, and it is given in the figure 4 as shown in the slide. It can be seen that at lower temperature, the induction period, which is also known as the lag phase, is longer. The growth rate in the logarithmic phase is slower. As a result of the above, the bacterial count after a given storage time is considerably very low. The microbiological quality of a refrigerated food depends on the time temperature profile of the life of the product. Obviously, additional factors such as pH, water activity also play an important role in the microbial processes in the food. Predictive microbiology is a new science trying to develop tools for the prediction of microbiological quality of foods as a function of storage conditions with special reference to low temperature freezing. Let us try to understand the effect of low temperature on the biologically active tissues. By active tissues, we refer to foods such as fruits and vegetables after harvest or meat after dressing in view of their biochemical activity. The principal biochemical post-harvest processes that occurs in fruits and vegetables is respiration, whereas the sugars are burnt, oxygen is consumed and carbon dioxide is evolved. The rate of respiration is usually determined by measuring the rate of oxygen consumption or carbon dioxide release. Respiration is the most important cause of deterioration of fruits and vegetables during storage, though not the only reason for spoilage. It is usually said that shelf life of the fresh produce is inversely related to the rate of respiration. The rate of respiration is closely related to the temperature. The rate of respiration increases by 2 to 4 fold for every 10 degrees increase in the temperature within the range of usual storage temperatures. However, too low storage temperatures may cause a condition known as chill injury in certain commodities and must be avoided. Fruits and vegetables differ in the intensity of their post-harvest respiration rate. There is a rough classification of some fresh produce with respect to their respiration rate during storage. That is, high respiration rate, medium respiration rate and low respiration rate. High respiration rate can be seen in fruits like avocado, asparagus, vegetables like cauliflowers, berries, etc. High respiration rate can be seen in fruits and vegetables like avocado, asparagus, cauliflower, berries, etc. Medium respiration rates can be seen in banana, apricots, plums, carrots, cabbage, tomatoes. Low respiration rate can be seen in citrus, apples, grapes, potatoes, etc. Many crops undergo a process of post-harvest ripening during storage. These are called climacteric species because their rate of respiration increases to a maximum in the process. Ethylene is produced and acts as a ripening hormone. Apples, bananas and avocados are climacteric while citrus, grapes, etc. are non-climacteric. It is possible to control the rate of respiration of fruits, vegetables and cut flowers with the help of refrigeration alone or through a combination of refrigeration and controlled atmospheric storage. Controlled atmosphere consists of long range of refrigerated storage in closed chambers where the atmosphere has been artificially modified so as to depress the rate of respiration to the desired level. The optimum composition of atmosphere depends on the commodity and often to a particular variety of the commodity. Respiration is an exothermic process. The heat released by respiring commodities during refrigerated storage and transportation must always be taken into account in calculating the refrigeration load which is required for each of the commodity. You can see that the table 3 gives approximate rate of heat evolution during storage of selected commodities, in which the heat evolution rate, watts required per ton when stored at various temperatures, is clearly given. Low temperature alone is not always sufficient for extending the shelf life of fruits and vegetables. Another important condition that must be controlled in post-harvest storage is relative humidity. Loss of water is often the cause of texture deterioration, wilting, shriveling, etc. Water loss may be minimized by storing at high relative humidity, but humidity levels that can promote growth of mold must also be avoided. Let us now try to understand the effect of low storage on physical properties. Numerous changes in physical properties caused by exposure to low temperature may have significant effect on the food quality. Let us now try to understand and see some of the changes which happen due to low storage. One is increase in viscosity. Second one is decrease in solubility resulting in crystallization, precipitation and cloudiness. Cloudiness can be seen in products like beer. Hardening, transition to rubbery and glassy state in carbohydrate systems can be seen due to low temperature storage. Hardening of fats can also be seen. Then decomposition of colloidal systems such as emulsions and gels also are some of the physical changes which happen during low temperature storages. Freezing, as you know, is one of the most widespread industrial method of food preservation which is used extensively in today's food processing sector. The transition from chilling to freezing is not merely a continuous change that can be explained on grounds of lower temperature alone. On the contrary, freezing represents a point of sharp discontinuity in relationship between temperature and stability and sensory properties of the foods. The exceptional efficiency of freezing as a method of food preservation is to a large extent due to depression of water activity. Indeed, when food is frozen, water separates as ice crystals and remaining non-frozen portion becomes more concentrated in solutes. This freeze concentration effect results in depression of water activity, and in this respect freezing can be compared to concentration and drying also. On other hand, same phenomena of freeze concentration may accelerate reactions including irreversible changes such as protein denaturation, accelerated oxidation of lipids and destruction of colloidal structures like gels, emulsions in the food systems. The rate of freezing has an important effect on the quality of the frozen foods. Physical changes such as formation of large ice crystals with sharp edges, expansion, disruption of osmotic equilibrium between the cells and their surroundings may include irreversible damage to the texture of vegetables, fruits and the meat foods. It has been established that such damage is minimized in case of quick freezing, where small ice crystals are formed instead of large ice crystals. Let us now see the effect of freezing and frozen storage on the product quality. For a very large number of food products, freezing represents the best preservation method with respect to food quality. The nutritional value, the flavor and color of foods are affected very slightly, if at all, by the process of freezing itself. The main quality factor that may be adversely affected by freezing is the texture. On the other hand, unless appropriate measures are taken, the deleterious effect of long-term frozen storage and of thawing on every aspect of product quality may be significant. Let us see the effect of freezing on texture. In a vegetal or animal tissue, the cells are surrounded by a medium known as extracellular fluid. The extracellular fluid is less concentrated than the protoplasm inside the cells. The concentration difference results in a difference in osmotic pressure, which is compensated by the tension of cell wall. This phenomena, known as turgor, is the reason for solid appearance of meat and the crispiness of fruits and vegetables. When heat is removed from the food in course of freezing, the extracellular fluid, being less concentrated, starts to freeze first. Its concentration rises and the osmotic balance is disrupted. Fluid flows from cell to the extracellular space. Turgor is lost and the tissue is softened. When the food is thawed, the liquid that was lost to the extracellular space is not reabsorbed into the cell but is released as free juice in case of fruits or drip in case of meat. It is generally believed that freezing damage to the texture of cellular foods is greatly reduced by accelerating the rate of freezing. This is explained by the fact that condition of osmotic imbalance created at the onset of freezing disappears when the entire mass is frozen. Furthermore, rapid freezing results in formation of smaller ice crystals, presumably less harmful to the texture of the cellular systems. Another probable reason for the deterioration of texture is the volumetric expansion which is caused by the freezing. The specific volume of ice is 9% higher than that of pure water. Because the cellular tissues are not homogeneous with respect to water content, parts of the tissue expand more than the others. This creates mechanical stress that may result in cracks. Obviously, this effect is particularly strong in foods with high water content such as cucumbers, lettuce, tomatoes, etc. This particular kind of texture damage can be partially prevented by adding some solutes. Adding sugar to fruits and berries before freezing was a widespread practice before the development of ultra-rapid freezing methods. Now let us try to understand the effect of frozen storage on the food quality. Frozen storage, even at fairly low temperatures, does not mean the absence of deteriorative process. On the contrary, frozen foods may undergo profound quality changes during frozen storage. While the rates of reactions is generally slower in frozen foods, the expected shelf life and therefore the time available for the reactions to take place is long. Some of the frequent types of deterioration in frozen foods are protein denaturation resulting in toughening of muscle foods, protein-lipid interactions, lipid oxidation, and oxidative changes in general. After understanding the effects of low temperature on enzymatic activity, microbial quality, and physical parameters, let us now try to understand the freezing methods. There are three major methods of freezing. One is air freezing, second one is indirect contact freezing, and the third one is immersion and cryogenic freezing. In the first one, that is air freezing, we have three subcategories again, that is still air sharp freezing, air blast freezing, fluidized bed freezing. Then in the second category, that is indirect contact freezing, we have four subcategories, that is single plate freezing, double plate freezing, pressure plate freezing, and slush freezing. Then in the third category, that is immersion and cryogenic freezing, we have three subcategories again. The first one is heat exchange fluid freezing, compressed gas freezing, and refrigerant spray freezing. Let us try to understand each one quickly. First one is air blast freezing. Air freezing is the oldest and most common type of freezing which is used. The freezer section of the household refrigerator and the deep freezer are classic examples of still air freezers or low air velocity systems. Then coming to the air blast freezing, this is a moderately fast freezing technology because of vigorous circulation of cold air. The product is generally placed on tray or mesh belts and passed slowly through an insulated tunnel. In different systems, the temperature may range from -18 degrees centigrade to -34 degrees centigrade with an air velocity of 100 to 3500 lineal feet per minute with a counter current airflow. Air blast freezers operate at low temperatures than still air freezers and rely on movement of cold air at high velocity over the food in order to achieve rapid removal of heat and to maximize the freezing rate. Now we will try to understand the next type of freezing, that is fluidized bed freezing. In this type of air freezing, solid particles ranging in size from peas to strawberries are being exposed to a movement of cold air with a temperature of -18 degrees centigrade to -34 degrees centigrade at high velocity as they pass along a conveyor belt. This will impart a vibratory motion to the food particles, accelerating the freezing rate. The cold air being forced upward through the bed lifts and suspends the food particles. Thus, fluidization occurs. In this way, a rapid freezing rate is accomplished and an IQF, individually quick frozen product, is produced. In other words, food items are frozen as the individual pieces are not stuck together. Then we will now try to understand the advantages and disadvantages of the air blast freezing. The advantages are that the individual quick freezing or the fluidized bed freezing are very economical. They can freeze various sizes and shapes of food, and IQF has more efficient heat transfer with increased rate of freezing. Similarly, there are some disadvantages also, that is, possible excess dehydration can happen which can lead to freezer burn. Then undesirable bulging of packages can happen because of expansion of the product, and non-uniform products can be fluidized easily. Now let us try to understand the indirect contact freezers. Indirect contact freezers are used in the production of various frozen food commodities. In these freezers, food is placed on belts or trays and the refrigerant circulates through a wall beside the food. As the food comes into contact with the cold wall, it quickly cools down and freezes. Plate and slush freezers are some examples of the indirect contact freezers. During plate freezing, food products are placed in contact with a metal surface which is cooled by a cold brine or a vapor refrigerant such as ammonia. The packaged food material either rests on or slides against or is pressed between the cold metal plates, and these plates maintain firm contact with two major surfaces of the packaging to facilitate heat transfer and prevent bulging of the packets during the freezing process. Fish sticks, frozen fish fillets are commonly frozen in plate contact freezers. Another type of indirect contact freezer is slush freezer or scraped surface heat exchanger. These freezers can be used only for fluid food products. A common example of scraped surface freezer is the machine used to convert ice cream mix to a soft ice cream in restaurants and ice cream shops. The same principle is used in commercial production of ice cream that is sold as hard ice cream. In the case of ice cream, the rotator not only aids in promoting rapid freezing and development of small ice crystals, but also aids in incorporation of air bubbles into the freezing mix, which results in the formation of a solid foam. After understanding the processes of indirect contact freezing, let us try to understand the advantages and disadvantages of the same. The advantages of the indirect contact freezing are that they are economical, they provide minimal dehydration to the foods, and minimum package bulging is also provided with indirect contact freezing. There are some disadvantages also with indirect contact freezing. Some of them are, it is a slow freezing process and the products must be of uniform thickness. Then coming to the last category of freezing, that is immersion and cryogenic freezing. Immersion freezing involves the immersion of packaged or unpackaged food products directly into a non-toxic refrigerant fluid. The refrigerant fluids commonly used are propylene glycol, glycerol, sodium chloride, calcium chloride, and mixture of salt and sugar. Canned citrus juices, turkeys, chicken, etc. are often frozen in immersion freezing units. Ice cream popsicles can also be frozen using this method. Then we have the next category, that is cryogenic freezing. Cryogenic freezing is accomplished with cryogenic liquids like liquid nitrogen being the most commonly used. This is very rapid freezing method in which unpackaged or thinly packaged foods are exposed to extremely cold freezing. In contrast to liquid immersion freezing, heat removal is accomplished during a change of state by the freezant. Products such as TV dinners, preformed patties and other high-value food products are frozen in cryogenic freezers because of the excellent retention quality imparted by the rapid rate of freezing and small ice crystal formation. After understanding cryogenic freezing, now let us try to understand liquid nitrogen cryogenic freezing. The product here is first placed on a conveyor belt and is moved into the pre-cooling part of the freezing unit. Once the food is cooled, the food is sprayed by liquid nitrogen as it is being moved through the conveyor belt. Here is where the freezing process takes place by the nitrogen boiling as it contacts the food. Finally, the food is allowed to equilibrate the desired final temperature, which ranges between minus 18 degrees centigrade to minus 30 degrees centigrade. So after understanding the immersion and cryogenic freezing, let us now see what are all the advantages and disadvantages of immersion and cryogenic freezing. The advantages of this type of freezing include that it is a rapid freezing process with almost no dehydration and very good product quality. The oxygen is excluded, decreasing the oxidative spoilage in the foods. Then individual freezing pieces have less freezing damage when done with immersion or cryogenic freezing. There are some disadvantages also, which include that it is very difficult to find suitable freezants for freezing the food matrices. Then apart from that, the cost of operation for immersion and cryogenic freezing is very expensive. So today we have learnt about low temperature food preservation and processing, where we have learnt about what are all the different kinds of changes which happen to the food on low temperature processing and storage. Then we have also seen what are all the different types of low temperature processing methods. To conclude this entire topic, you have to know that freezing and low temperature preservation provides longer shelf life to the foods, and it is carried out at a temperature much below 0 degrees centigrade. And the freezing slows or stops the microbial growth. However, storage of the food at freezing temperatures does not kill the microorganisms, and in fact many disease causing and spoilage microorganisms can still survive on the frozen foods for many years. And once the food is thawed, the surviving microorganisms can resume their growth and function, causing diseases or spoilage. And therefore, proper freezing techniques and proper pre-treatments have to be given to ensure the quality of the food and retaining the physical parameters of the food also. Frozen foods, as you know, are of greater and higher nutritional value and with very good aesthetic quality attributes than the thermally processed foods. The faster the rate of freezing, the better the retention of quality of both sensory and nutritional properties. For further reference on this topic, you can refer to books like Low Temperature Preservation Technologies, Principles of Food Processing, Refrigeration also. Thank you.